ITA for sleeping with the women my ex-fiancée hated most after she cheated on me with her ex and kept lying while we were engaged. We met at a leadership summit in Seattle, of all places. I had been sent by my firm to give a talk on sustainable systems implementation. Mira was one of the keynote panelists, sharp, funny, and completely magnetic. We ended up seated next to each other during one of the breakout sessions, and by the end of the afternoon, I'd barely taken notes on the discussion, but could tell you Myra's favorite bourbon, her stance on remote work, and why she never trusted any man who wore tasseled loafers. My name is Adam. I'm 32 now and living in Manhattan, but that summit happened 6 years ago, when I was just getting promoted to senior consultant. Mira was 2 years younger and already heading up a project at a rival firm. She had this way of making you feel like the center of the universe without trying. Our banter clicked instantly, fast, dry, and relentless. And her laugh? God, her laugh was addictive. I remember thinking, I could chase that sound for the rest of my life. We started dating a few months later. By her 29th birthday, I was down on one knee at a rooftop bar in Tribeca, asking her to marry me. She said yes before I even finished the sentence. That night, she whispered to me, "You always make me feel safe, Adam." I kissed her forehead and thought, that's all I'll ever need to hear. Looking back, I wish I had paid more attention to the silences. Mira was always private when it came to her past. She shared a lot. Books she loved, her favorite childhood snacks, wild stories from her consulting travels. But when it came to her exes, she was evasive. Except once. Just once, when we were still in that honey-drenched early phase, she told me about Zane. We were in bed, half-drunk and tangled in sheets, talking about our worst breakups. She laughed, rolled her eyes, and said, Zane was awful. Toxic, controlling, but electric in bed. I laughed too at the time. Made some dumb comment about opposites attracting. But it stuck with me. That word, electric. She said it like it still sparked something in her. And for weeks after, I found myself wondering if she ever compared us. If I was just safer, calmer, predictable. Still, I told myself it didn't matter. She chose me. People have messy pasts. I filed Zane away in that mental drawer labeled irrelevant history and went on being the man she wanted, steady, successful, loving. By the time our second anniversary came around, Zane had vanished from all conversations. Life rolled forward. We picked a wedding date, looked at condos. I met her parents in Baltimore. We threw a huge engagement party at the Soho Grand. I was sure we were solid. Past tense. But sometimes I think back to that first conversation, her voice light, casual, maybe too casual, and I wonder if I missed something deeper. A warning, maybe, or a confession in disguise. Either way, the silence that followed was deafening, and I should have listened closer. The wedding planning hit full steam around the 1-year mark of our engagement. Both sets of parents were practically frothing at the mouth for an event worth bragging about. Myra's mom wanted signature cocktails. My mother wanted a harpist. Mira just wanted it over with, or so she claimed, until she found the chapel. She came home one evening glowing, her phone full of pictures. It's this old hilltop chapel just outside Beacon. Stone walls, ivy crawling up the sides, and these massive oak doors. It feels cinematic. That sounds nice, I said, scrolling through her photos. You go with one of the planners? She shook her head, slipping off her heels. Nah, a friend. She didn't elaborate, and I didn't press. I figured it was someone from her side of the industry. Maybe a colleague or a college buddy. I was neck deep in an account expansion project and truthfully just relieved she was taking initiative. I told myself, trust her. Don't be that guy. We put down the deposit the following week. 25 grand to reserve a space that looked like it belonged in a period film. She seemed lighter after that, less anxious, more affectionate. She even joked about finally buying a wedding dress that didn't make her feel like a cupcake. You know, she said one night while we were folding laundry, for the first time, I actually feel excited about this whole thing. I smiled and kissed her forehead. It's going to be perfect. I meant it. And I think I believed it, too. But then came the text. It was a Friday evening, the week after we finalized catering. Mira was at home, hair up, barefoot in the kitchen waiting for our Thai order. She was scrolling through her phone and laughing at something she wouldn't show me. Said it was a meme her cousin sent. I didn't think much of it. When the buzzer rang, she walked out to get the food. Her phone buzzed again on the counter. Just one line. Brightest day? You free later, babe? Zane. I froze. I didn't even touch the phone. Just stared at the notification like it might morph into something else if I looked long enough. I could hear Mira laughing with the delivery guy through the intercom, her voice light and breezy like nothing was wrong. My chest felt like it was filling with cement. Babe. He called her babe. Not hey, not Mira, not you up, babe. Like he had permission. Like they had something. By the time she walked back in with the food, I was sitting on the couch, pretending to scroll through emails. She didn't notice anything. Just dropped the bag in front of me and plopped down next to me with a sigh. Remind me never to order from that place again, she groaned. Guy smelled like cigarettes and lemon-scented floor cleaner. I nodded. My stomach was churning too much to eat. I thought about confronting her right then and there. I imagined it a dozen different ways, snatching up her phone, yelling, demanding answers. But I didn't. I couldn't. Not without proof. Instead, I looked at her and said, "We should do the cake tasting next weekend." She smiled and leaned into me. Can't wait. That night, I lay awake beside her, watching the ceiling and listening to her breathe, wondering how many lies can fit inside the word babe. Wondering if Zane had ever actually gone away, or if he'd just been hiding in the margins all along. I decided then, I wouldn't accuse her. Not yet. But I'd find out. One way or another, I'd get the truth. It happened 10 days later. A Wednesday afternoon. I remember because Mira had an appointment to go over floral arrangements and left her phone charging on the kitchen island. At first, I wasn't going to touch it. I paced around the apartment like a caged animal, trying to talk myself out of it. But that message from Zane, "You free later, babe," hadn't left my mind for a second. I had replayed it in my head every night like a sickness. So when she left her phone behind, screen unlocked, I told myself this was my chance for clarity. Not revenge. Not paranoia. Just the truth. I picked it up and opened her messages. My hands were shaking. I was half hoping I'd find nothing, that I'd read too much into a text that meant nothing. But his name was right there at the top. Zane, with a red heart next to it. I opened the thread. The first thing I saw was a picture of Mira, smiling in front of the chapel. The same one she showed me, but this one was different. She wasn't posing for documentation. She was laughing mid-shot, holding the camera up, clearly sending it to him. Zane, damn, you look good up there. Mira, you should have seen me inside. I had goosebumps. I scrolled further. My throat tightened with every message. Zane, I still can't believe we were inside a chapel together again. I half expected us to end up in the confessional. Mira, you're bad. I kinda liked it. Zane, don't tell your fiancé you broke the altar rules with your ex. I stopped breathing. There were more, some crude, some intimate, all full of a familiarity that hadn't dulled with time. They joked about the past, reminisced about the way they used to fight and make up. Then came the part that gutted me. Mira, I haven't felt that alive in years. Not loved. Not secure. Not happy. Alive. I sat down, the phone still in my hand. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might crack a rib. She hadn't just lied. She had chosen him. She had walked through that chapel with Zane. Not just walked, relived something. Rekindled it. Ignited something behind my back while I was busy writing checks and picking out canapes. The next set of messages confirmed what I already suspected. They had slept together. In the chapel. The same one where we were supposed to get married. Zane, still thinking about you against that wall. That moment almost made me believe in God again. Mira, don't. I'm already trying not to feel guilty. You're not helping. Guilty. That word burned in my chest. She knew. She knew it was wrong, and she did it anyway. The front door opened. I turned toward the sound. Mira stepped inside, sunglasses on her head, foamless, unaware. She was humming something. I must have looked like stone because she froze when she saw me sitting there with her phone in my hand. Her smile faded. Adam. I didn't say anything. I just held up the phone and let the screen speak for itself. She stared at it, then at me, her mouth opening slightly before she caught herself. You went through my phone? That's what you're going to lead with? I asked, standing up. Not the part where you fucked your ex in the chapel we booked for our wedding? Adam, please. No, I cut her off, walking around the island to face her. Tell me the truth. How long has it been going on? She took a breath like she was about to lie, then stopped. Her shoulders dropped. Her face cracked. Since the visit to the chapel. So a month, I said. A month of messages, sneaking around, letting me pay for things while you kept him in your pocket like some dirty little secret. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. My voice was low, tight. You brought him into our future. Into a building we were going to say vows in. She looked like she might cry. Good. Let her. Adam, I don't even know why I did it. It just happened. We were talking and didn't just happen. You planned that visit. You went there with him. Her lip trembled. It didn't mean what you think it did. Then what did it mean, Mira? I asked, stepping closer. Tell me what the fuck it meant to lie to my face while screwing someone you used to call toxic. Tell me why I'm standing here feeling like an idiot. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. I want the ring back, I said flatly. That snapped her out of it. Adam. Give. Me. The ring. She looked stunned. Her fingers instinctively reached for it, twisting it off. When she dropped it into my palm, I closed my hand around it like it was a piece of coal. Tears were streaming down her face now. But I didn't care. I loved you, I said, my voice hollow. God, I really did. But you buried that love under lies and secrets. So this. I held up the ring one last time. This is done. And with that, I walked out the door. I didn't slam it. I didn't yell. I just left. Because some endings don't need drama. Just truth. And I had finally found mine. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. I sat in the living room of my apartment, lights off, phone off, staring at nothing and feeling everything. The ring sat on the coffee table in front of me, still warm from her hand when I took it hours earlier. I poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon and drank until I felt a little less like a ghost. By morning, there were 17 missed calls from Mira. A few texts too, mostly things like, "Can we talk? Please don't do this." And one final, "I didn't mean to hurt you." I didn't respond. Instead, I opened our family group chat, the one we made to coordinate wedding stuff with both our parents. The chat where her mom used to send photos of centerpiece ideas and my dad made dry jokes about wearing clip-on ties. I took a deep breath and typed, "Adam, the wedding is off. Mira had an affair with her ex. I found out yesterday. Please don't ask questions. I'm okay. Just need space." Then I hit send. The message showed as read within 30 seconds. Then nothing. Total silence. I watched the little typing bubble come and go, then vanish completely. 2 hours later, my phone rang. It was my dad. "You made the right call," he said. His voice wasn't soft or sentimental, it was just steady, certain. Like he didn't need the details to know what kind of betrayal cuts deepest. "Thanks," I said. My throat was raw, my voice low. "You coming over tonight?" "Not yet." "All right. Just know we've got your back." That was it. That's all I needed to hear. The calls started rolling in after that. My brother, a couple of close friends, even Myra's cousin Liv, who just wrote, "I'm so sorry." I don't know what the hell she was thinking, but I didn't want sympathy. I didn't want explanations. I just wanted air. I ignored Mira entirely. Every call, every knock on the door, every message she left sobbing into my voicemail. At one point, she even tried coming to my office, but the receptionist, who knew what happened, sent her away before she could make it past the lobby. I kept thinking about how easily she had compartmentalized her betrayal. Like she thought she could have both lives. Like she could build a future with me while keeping one hand in the ashes of her past. I wondered if she ever really planned to stop. Or if Zane was just going to become a permanent shadow in our marriage. A ghost I was never supposed to see. One night, I opened my laptop and started canceling everything: venue, caterers, photographer. I forwarded refund details to my accountant, logged the deposit losses as sunk costs, and then stared at our shared wedding spreadsheet for a long time before deleting the whole damn thing. I should have felt heartbroken. But what I felt most of all was angry. Not at her for cheating. That wound would eventually scab over, but because she might still walk away from this unscathed. With her reputation intact. With no consequences beyond a couple of awkward conversations with friends. Meanwhile, I had to unravel a life I had built around someone who never really let go of the past. That's what got under my skin. The idea that she could lie, break something sacred, and still move through the world without anyone knowing what she'd done. So I made a decision. If she wanted silence, she could keep it. But she wouldn't get to rewrite the story. That group chat was only the beginning. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to post rage-filled captions online or send mass emails. But I would tell the truth to the people who mattered. To the ones who would ask, "What happened to the wedding?" And I'd answer calmly, "Mira slept with her ex. At the chapel we were supposed to get married in." That's what happened. I didn't need to scream to set the record straight. I just needed the facts. Let the weight of them do the work. For the first couple of weeks, I tried to move on. I focused on work, hit the gym harder than usual, deleted every trace of wedding planning from my phone. My inbox was still a graveyard of "final reminder, your RSVP is due" emails, but I ignored them. I was surviving. Sort of. But no matter how many hours I buried myself in spreadsheets and stare machines, the anger stayed. Not the kind that burns hot. This was colder. Focused. The kind of anger that sharpens your thinking instead of clouding it. Mira didn't just betray me. She humiliated me. She brought that man, Zane, back into her life like I was a placeholder, like I was some safe little phase she was done with. I kept wondering what would have happened if I hadn't picked up her phone that day. Would she have walked down the aisle and smiled through her vows with his hands still on her skin? I couldn't let it go. I didn't want to. For a while, I thought about going after Zane. I even tried to track him down online, LinkedIn, Instagram, the usual. But his accounts were either locked or dormant. There wasn't enough there to work with, no job I could sabotage, no public presence I could shatter. That's when my focus shifted. Not to him. To her. If I couldn't reach Zane, I could reach something else Mira valued just as much: her ego. Her image. Her carefully curated self-worth. Because Mira, despite her guarded nature, had her pressure points. And I knew exactly where they were. There were 3 women she despised. She never admitted it outright, but over time, the patterns became obvious. Names dropped with tight smiles, fake compliments, a change in tone that always betrayed her. First was Sarah, her former coworker from a client project in Boston. Mira once described her as dangerously confident and the type of woman who always wants to win the room. Translation: Sarah made her insecure. Second was Rena, her college roommate turned rival. They fell out after a messy situation involving a shared ex-boyfriend and a burned bridge Mira never got over. She hated that Rena still showed up in mutual friends group photos, still had more followers, still got invited to destination weddings Mira wasn't even considered for. And third was Emmy, a quiet girl from Mira's high school who Mira swore always acted like a victim, but who she talked about more often than any actual friend. I figured out later that Mira had bullied her back then, and Emmy had somehow grown into someone Mira couldn't control or diminish anymore. 3 names. 3 unfinished wars in Mira's head. And suddenly, I knew exactly what I had to do. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about humiliation. I wanted Mira to feel small. I wanted her to squirm, to question everything she thought she had over me. I wanted her to look in the mirror and see someone who had lost, not just me, but the version of herself she was desperate to protect. So I started planning. Not impulsively. Not sloppily. I set up a new dating profile. Polished. Subtle. Not fake. Just strategic. I curated my photos carefully, ones that showed success but not arrogance. I looked charming, composed, like someone who had taken the breakup in stride and was just getting back out there. Then I searched. Sarah came first. She was still active on LinkedIn, still had her Instagram public. She'd recently moved to New York and posted brunch photos with captions like, "No bad days." I started following her. A few likes, a couple of comments. Nothing thirsty, just warm. Smart. She responded within 2 days. But I wasn't going to rush it. Because this wasn't about falling into bed. This was about building the perfect storm. I made a list: dates, locations, wardrobe, what kind of photos would sting the most. I wasn't going to tell Mira anything directly. I didn't need to. All I had to do was live loudly enough, visibly enough, where it would trickle back to her. Through mutual friends. Through tagged photos. Through curiosity she wouldn't be able to ignore. Each step would be intentional. Each woman would be a mirror held up to Mira's worst fears. And when I was done, I wouldn't scream or send a dramatic email. I'd let the truth land like a blade sliding between ribs. She made her move. Now it was my turn. Sarah was easier to reach than I expected. She replied to my first Instagram message with a quick, "Hey, familiar face. You used to work with Mira, right?" I didn't even have to explain who I was. She already remembered me from the couple photos Mira used to post when we were still together. Back when I was the golden fiancé. The safe one. We made plans to meet for dinner in the city. She picked the place, some trendy tapas spot in the Flatiron district. Small plates, dim lighting, people dressed like they were all on second dates with people they hoped would become third. When I walked in, she was already at the bar. Red lipstick. Simple dress. Confident posture. Mira hadn't lied. Sarah was stunning. But it wasn't just her looks. It was the way she smiled when I approached. Calm, assured, like she wasn't trying to impress anyone. "You're even better looking in real life," she said, handing me a drink without asking what I wanted. Mira seriously fumbled. I laughed. "You knew about that?" She sipped her cocktail. Everyone did. Office gossip spreads like wildfire. I mean, people weren't exactly shocked when you two broke up, but the Zayn thing? That was messy. That word again. Messy. She didn't pry, though. And I didn't need her to. We talked for 2 hours. About consulting. About burnout. About the weird nothingness of being in your 30s and realizing most people don't really change. She told me about leaving her firm to start her own boutique agency. I told her about the new project I was leading. It wasn't a hard sell. Sarah liked smart, clean energy. She liked ambition, confidence, restraint. I gave her all 3. We moved from the tapas bar to a rooftop lounge across town. Ordered a second round. Then a third. By the time we ended up back at her place in Chelsea, I had already made sure we took a selfie together. Just blurry enough to be casual. Just posed enough to raise eyebrows. She posted it the next morning to her story. Captioned it, "Dinner with an unexpected upgrade." I didn't have to tag myself. I didn't need to. Mira followed Sarah's account through a burner. I knew that because I had seen it months ago, late one night on Myra's iPad, when she scrolled through Sarah's feed and muttered, "She thinks she's God's gift to LinkedIn." That story went live at 9:12 a.m. By 9:35, Mira had texted me. "Mira, are you seriously sleeping with Sarah now?" I didn't reply, just watched the 3 dots appear, then disappear, then reappear. "Mira, you're doing this to hurt me." Still, I said nothing. Because silence, used right, can scream louder than anything else. By noon, I had posted my own photo, just a simple shot of my drink glass next to Sarah's hand across a restaurant table. No faces, no tags, just the right mood, just enough to make people wonder. That night, Sarah sent me a text. "Not sure what your deal is, but I don't mind being a part of it. You're interesting. One target down." And it felt good. Not in a cheap, petty way. Not like revenge porn or public drama. This was sharper, quieter, strategic. The first brick had been pulled from Myra's perfect little wall, and I had 8 more names on my list. Rena took a little more effort. She had moved to Chicago after college, started working in digital marketing for some lifestyle brand I'd never heard of. I found her on Instagram easily. Her profile was curated, colorful, full of travel pics and glossy smiles. The kind of page that looked effortless but screamed intentional. I sent a DM. Hey, long shot, but I think we've met before. Through Mira. You were at our engagement party in Brooklyn, right? She replied 2 hours later. Huh, that night was a blur. I remember you though. You gave the toast about loyalty. Irony, right? I paused. It was a good line. Yup, I typed back. Guess loyalty doesn't get the applause it used to. We messaged on and off for a few days. I kept it light, sarcastic. I didn't bring up Mira directly, but I didn't hide the connection either. Rena wasn't dumb. She knew what this was. Finally, I told her I'd be in Chicago for a client meeting. I wasn't, and asked if she wanted to grab a drink. She said yes immediately. Just drinks, she wrote. Or is this one of those villain origin story things? I stared at the message for a while. Then I wrote back. Can it be both? She sent a laughing emoji. Then, you know what? I'm in. I flew out on a Friday morning. Landed at O'Hare and headed straight to my hotel, a sleek boutique spot downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows and cold air that smelled like eucalyptus and money. Rena met me that evening at a rooftop wine bar, wearing high-waisted jeans, a blazer, and zero shame. You're lucky I'm petty, she said as she hugged me. Mira deserves a whole documentary. But this'll do. I didn't pretend to be innocent. I didn't play coy. I told her, halfway through our second drink, she used me, lied to me, and now she gets to walk around like nothing happened. I want her to feel it. Just a little. Rena tilted her glass toward me. Then let's make it a weekend. And we did. Saturday we hit the art museum, then brunch, then a walk through Lincoln Park. She took photos constantly, candids of me laughing, posed selfies with coffee cups, one of me adjusting her jacket collar with an almost kiss smile. We didn't post all of them, but we kept them. That night, we slept together. It wasn't forced. It wasn't calculated on her part. We were both clear about what this was, 2 people with overlapping scars, giving each other permission to leave a mark. The next morning, Rena lay beside me, hair wild on the pillow, scrolling through the shots from the day before. You want her to see these? She asked. I nodded. Eventually. Rena smirked. I could send a few to her directly. She blocked me ages ago, but there are workarounds. I didn't ask what she meant. I just said, do whatever feels right. She looked at me seriously then, her voice quieter. You're not crazy, by the way. What she did to you, that was coward shit. People like Mira think they can rewrite the story, edit themselves into the hero. But you're holding the receipts. We kissed again before I left for the airport. She sent me one final text before I boarded. You're doing God's work. Keep going. And I would. Because now I had proof. Pictures. Intimacy. A timeline Mira couldn't ignore. And soon, she'd see it all. One more name left. Then the storm could begin. Emmy was the wild card. Unlike Sarah and Rena, she wasn't part of Myra's adult life. She was a relic from high school, someone Mira used to talk about with this odd mix of superiority and irritation. Emmy was one of those girls who never fought back, Mira once told me. She just took whatever you said and smiled like an idiot. Back then, I hadn't thought much of it. But now I recognized what it really meant. Mira had bullied her. Maybe not with fists, but with words. With social games. With silence and smirks and exclusion. Emmy had been Myra's punching bag. And now, she was my final move. I found her on a dating app. We matched within 2 days. Her profile was understated. Soft eyes, simple clothes, a quiet confidence Mira never understood. I messaged her first. This is random, but I think you went to high school with my ex-fiancée. She replied, Mira Roth. That name still makes me flinch. What a small, cruel world. I didn't tell her everything up front. Just that Mira and I had split. That it hadn't ended well. That I'd always wondered what she was like back then. Emmy responded after a pause. She was mean. Mean in ways you don't even realize until years later. But thanks to therapy and bad poetry, I made it out alive. I asked her to dinner. She hesitated. I could sense it in the pacing of her replies. She didn't trust easily, especially not people connected to Mira. But then she said yes. We met at a small Thai place in the West Village. She wore a navy cardigan, jeans, and no makeup. And she was stunning. Not in the performative way Mira always aimed for, but in the way she carried herself. Honest, gentle, completely unbothered by what anyone thought. She ordered pad CEW and laughed when the spice level made her tear up. I told her about the engagement, the chapel, Zane. She didn't blink. She always loved control, Emmy said softly. I'm not surprised she found a way to get both of you to orbit her. That word hit hard. Orbit. That's what I'd been doing all along, spinning in her gravity, thinking it was love. I didn't push anything physical that night. We walked to Washington Square Park after dinner, talked about music, bad dates, and the strange quiet of living alone in your 30s. She didn't ask what I wanted from her. I think, deep down, she already knew. By our third date, we ended up at my place. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't transactional. Afterward, as she sat on my couch flipping through a vinyl sleeve, I asked her one question. If I told you Mira would see photos of us, would that bother you? She looked at me without flinching. No, she said. I hope it ruins her week. So I took them. Soft, glowing shots in warm apartment light. Emmy in my t-shirt, laughing at some bad joke. Her curled up against my chest, looking peaceful. Nothing crude. Just close, real. She helped me choose the ones that would hit hardest. This one, she said, holding up her favorite. Post this to your story with a caption that means nothing, but feels intimate. So I did. I wrote. Found something real in the quiet. And I made sure Mira could see it. A mutual tagged. A breadcrumb left behind. Within hours, Emmy's profile was viewed by an account I didn't recognize, but I knew the pattern. Mira had eyes on everything. Always had. By the next morning, my plan was complete. 3 women Mira couldn't stand. 3 stories she'd never be able to unsee. I hadn't screamed. I hadn't fought. But I'd made myself unforgettable. Now it was time to let her see what I'd done, piece by piece. And watch everything unravel. I told her to meet me at Prospect Park. Neutral ground. Public enough to avoid a meltdown. Quiet enough for what I needed to say. She showed up early. Of course she did. She was wearing that navy coat I bought her last winter, like it meant something now. Her makeup was subtle, probably because she wanted to look sincere. Maybe even innocent. But her eyes were anxious, darting every few seconds toward the park entrance like she wasn't sure if this was a trap. It was. I kept her waiting a few minutes on purpose, then walked up slowly, hands in my coat pockets, phone in one hand. Adam, she said, standing as I approached. Thank you for it. I didn't come to talk, I said. Her mouth closed. She sat back down. I sat across from her on the bench. Took out my phone. No hesitation. No warm-up. Just, look. I opened the folder. First, the photos with Sarah. Rooftop bar, arms around each other, city lights behind us. One of her kissing my cheek. One of us dancing. Sarah had posted them publicly. I made sure Mira saw the captions. She flinched. Next, I opened the folder labeled Rena. I scrolled slowly, like a slideshow just for her. Hotel lobby mirror selfies. Drinks clinking at a rooftop bar. Then a close-up of her hand on my chest, her head on my shoulder. I didn't say a word. Then I showed her Emmy. Candlelit dinners. Polaroids in my apartment. One short video of us dancing barefoot in the kitchen. Her laugh, soft and real. Myra's eyes welled up. You documented it? She choked out. Like a sick trophy case? I looked up from the phone. No. Like proof. Of what? Her voice cracked. That you're just as cruel as the people you claim to hate? No, I said calmly. Proof that I learned from the best. Her jaw dropped, but I kept going. You lied to me for months. You slept with your ex in a chapel we paid for together. You sat across from me, night after night, planning a future with one hand and texting him with the other. So no, I didn't cheat. I didn't lie. I didn't humiliate you during our relationship. I leaned in. But after you tried to walk away like nothing happened? After you thought you could just disappear with your reputation intact? I shook my head. That's when I decided you deserved to feel something. Not just guilt. Shame. She blinked rapidly. They knew. They knew enough, I said. And they didn't care. You're disgusting, she spat. I smiled. You called me boring once. Safe. Predictable. I looked down at the phone again. Tell me, Mira, do I still seem predictable now? Her face twisted. She stood up abruptly, arms shaking, voice rising. You're worse than I ever was. At least I didn't plan mine. At least I didn't manipulate people like chess pieces just to prove some twisted point. I stood too. Calm. Still. No, I said. You just betrayed the one person who would have walked through fire for you. I just held up a mirror. Her lip trembled. She turned away, then spun back around, fury now spilling through every crack in her voice. This doesn't make you right. This makes you broken. I nodded. Maybe. But at least I broke after the betrayal. She opened her mouth again, then closed it. I stepped past her, down the path, stopping once to glance back. You said Zane made you feel alive, I said quietly. Let's see how alive he makes you when there's nothing left to hide behind. She didn't follow. Didn't say a word. She just sat back down on that bench, alone now, sobbing quietly into her coat sleeves. And I walked away. Not fast. Not triumphant. Just done. Because this wasn't about winning. It was about making sure she never forgot who she threw away. And who replaced her without missing a beat. Weeks went by, and I didn't hear a word from her. No texts, No calls. No mutual friends reaching out with damage control. Mira had gone completely silent. It should have felt eerie, but it didn't. It felt finished. Her birthday passed in mid-April. I remembered because last year, I surprised her with a private dinner and a gold locket engraved with the date I proposed. This year, I sat alone on my balcony, sipping black coffee, watching the sunset over Brooklyn. I didn't text her. Not because I forgot, but because I finally understood something. I owed her nothing. What she did wasn't just cheating. It wasn't even just lying. It was rewriting who we were, what we had, without ever having the decency to end it first. She didn't rip off the bandage. She let the wound rot and smiled while doing it. But I had ripped mine clean open. And that came with clarity. I'd be lying if I said the revenge didn't feel good. It did. Seeing her cry on that bench in Prospect Park was a quiet kind of justice. No shouting, no name-calling, just the cold weight of reality landing exactly where it belonged. She looked at those pictures like they were knives. And they were. I never posted them publicly. Never sent them directly. But she saw them. She knew. That was the point. I didn't want to ruin her career or reputation. I just wanted her to sit with it. Really sit with the version of me she created by betraying the man who would have married her without question. I never followed up with Sarah, Rena, or Emmy. Each of them understood what it was. Clean lines. No mess. No expectations. Just quiet partnerships in a controlled storm. I'd thank them if I could. Not because I used them, but because they reminded me of something I forgot when I was with Mira. I'm not small. I'm not safe. I'm not boring. I'm the man she underestimated. Since then, I've poured myself into work. Got promoted again, senior VP this time. I started lifting heavier, sleeping better, laughing, even, with friends I'd put on hold for too long. I deleted the wedding playlist, boxed up the photos, gave the ring to my cousin, who proposed last month, told him to use the diamond, not the promise. I haven't dated since, not because I'm scared, but because I'm finally okay being alone. Solitude doesn't feel like a punishment anymore. It feels like peace. People always say, trust your gut. But most of us don't. I didn't. Not when she told me about Zane. Not when she laughed a little too long at his name. Not even when she went back to that chapel with a friend. My gut screamed. I silenced it. Never again. Now I trust patterns, not promises. I don't ignore red flags because I want the story to be different. And if someone tries to make me feel guilty for drawing a boundary, I let them go. No speeches. No fireworks. Just silence. And Mira? She'll think twice next time. Not because I broke her, but because I made her look in the mirror. And once someone's seen what they're capable of, they can and see it. That's the kind of revenge that lingers. That's closure.